Let's do this. How do I do this? How do you explain pizza in the United States when pizza is everywhere?
I'm gonna show you.
Pizza is an art.
That famous smoked salmon pizza.
There are thousands of pizzerias. It's synonymous with a party. The president has advertised both major chains. I have mapsplained beer, I've mapsplained barbecue, but pizza has always been the most requested. And I think that I finally know how to tell this story using a map. I obtained 3 specific pizzas that tell the story. I visited a visually key Mexican restaurant, and I talked to experts in everything from pizza boxes. You have a collection that is pretty famous.
I have the world's largest collection of pizza boxes.
To people who've done some truly obsessive research.
I found the partnership agreement that started Deep Dish Pizza.
It is a search to find not just the best pizza or the first pizza, but also how my obsession with chain pizza connects to all of it. It's not my pizza, it's not your pizza, it's our pizza. It's the United States of pizza. This beautiful baby is the first pizza in America. Or is it? It is a classic New York thin crust. This thing is rock solid. There's a beautiful layer of cheese and sauce. It's known everywhere as the first American pizza. Okay, so we are gonna get to this obsessive fact finding, but that is actually why I am so glad that MyHeritage partnered with me on today's video. This video, and especially this section, is all about obsessively combing through records, and that's kind of what you get to do with MyHeritage. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure how this partnership was gonna go because I don't know a lot about my family. Then I get on MyHeritage, I start adding people to my family tree, and within, I'm serious, like less than half an hour, I had more than 130 people in my family tree. They were all branching from little old me. Because there are 33 billion documents and records on MyHeritage, it is pretty easy to fill out your family tree, and you're gonna learn a lot. It'll pop up instant discoveries to add to your tree. I mean, look at this. I found the naturalization record for my great-great-grandfather, person I didn't know at all. I texted it out, of course, and I got this back. This is kind of mind-blowing. You can fill these out with photos, too. I thought I was gonna have to put up like a random photo for this, but somebody else on MyHeritage had uploaded a photograph of my great-grandfather, and I was able to use that to colorize it, enhance it, and even to animate it. And so now this person that I didn't know at all was suddenly coming to life in front of me. This was like filling out my personal tech tree, and I was surprised by how easy it was. You can discover your heritage at myheritage.com. Go ahead, there's gonna be a link up here, and then I'll also put one in the description. You'll get a 14-day free trial. You're gonna have a lot of fun in like those first few hours, I think, just filling out your tree. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video where we can see how Peter went obsessively through all these records to find out the truth about pizza. This is Lombardi's Pizza in Little Italy. What was the prevailing myth about the origin of pizza in America?
Gennaro Lombardi brought pizza to America. And the main piece of evidence that they used was this famous photograph of Gennaro Lombardi with Antonio Pero right in front of the pizzeria. And on the window, it said, proprietor is Gennaro Lombardi. And below it says, in a sort of a oddly different script, below the photo, it says 1905.
This is Peter, who tracked down the truth about Lombardi's Pizza.
I'm a financial trader, and my passion job is to look into the origins of pizzerias in the United States.
He made it his mission.
I was at the Newberry Library at the second floor, right in front of the microfilm machine, and going through all these things to just find one address.
So to set the stage here, Peter is tracking the story of the first pizzeria. And then there's Scott. He is another pizza intellectual that I talked to. Pizza-lectual. That's what I'm calling them, and no, they did not agree to that. He runs an amazing tour for, well, pizza nerds. He is also obsessed with pizza.
One thing I'm sure you went over with Peter is people tend to pin the origin of pizza in America in 1905, while we had pizza clearly at least a decade before that.
For the most part, pizza was coming to America from Naples. It was a Southern Italian food, so you have to trace Southern Italian immigration. And you can ignore people coming from the North, because that is not where the pizza was coming from. Italian immigration soared in the 1880s, as this chart shows. They brought Neapolitan pizza with a big, charred, bubbly crust made on a wood or gas-fired oven.
That's where we see the first change in pizza style is Neapolitans landing in a new place with different technologies available and inexpensive, and different ingredients are available and inexpensive. And so the style of pizza changes overnight to conform to that ingredient availability and technology availability.
Toppings-wise, you're initially not looking at pepperoni at all. It's a margarita pizza. In fact, people haven't found good proof of pepperoni on pizza until 1948. So pizza changed almost instantly. It went from being an Italian thing to being something new.
These are people coming from southern Italy, where wood-burning ovens that are dome-shaped ovens with a wood fire and the inside of the baking chamber, that's the norm. When you land in a place like Manhattan or Brooklyn, anywhere in what is now New York City, wood is too expensive, so we don't really see any evidence of wood-burning ovens that early. Anthracite coal is the cheap fuel source of choice.
And how does that affect or change the type of pizzas that are being made?
Well, what's the impact? Who cares if it's coal or if it's wood?
Yeah.
What's the actual difference? A wood-fired oven has a lot more moisture in the inside of the baking chamber because wood has a lot of moisture. Anthracite is 85 to 92% carbon, so it's very dry. So the bake of an anthracite coal-fired oven is a drier bake. It's a little bit lower temperature than the max potential of a wood-fired oven. Wood-fired is 800 to 900 max. Coal-fired oven is really more like 650 to 750. And so you get a longer bake in a drier oven, so you get a drier crust that has more crunch. It's not as soft and plush as a wood-fired pizza.
That Instagram that I showed to demonstrate Neapolitan pizzas looks great, but they use a wood-fired oven, so it's actually harkening back to Naples. In the 1800s, American pizza was this new thing in Little Italy. But then as close as the East Village, different pizza emerged.
The human geography is incredibly important. For instance, in the East Village, we ended up getting a lot of Sicilian immigrants. East Harlem and the Lower East Side and what we now call Little Italy on Mulberry Street, Neapolitans for the most part, Barese and some Sicilians. But when you go to the East Village, you find historically more bakeries that were Sicilian bakeries that made square pizzas, what we would call focaccia, what they called sfincione. And that evolved into what we now call Sicilian pizza, which then turned into Detroit-style pizza when it landed in Detroit.
So it should be clear by now that one guy founding pizza in 1905 is a myth. Peter tracked down the specifics.
And it wasn't until 2013 where I found that one of the key ads that absolutely definitively said there was a pizzeria before Gennaro Lombardi was even in the country. It was the perfect ad. It had the address, the proprietor's name. It showed a little sketch of him, and it gave a little brief description of what he was doing in there. And it said Pizzeria Napolitana.
What broader takeaway does it lead to for you, discovering that it wasn't this one person who necessarily brought pizza to America? It might have been another person or a group of people. What?
Right. So the big thing to me is like, okay, so who cares, right? I mean, so that's the thing that I ask all the time. Like, who cares about if he came from that village, if he had this name, if he was born earlier? It doesn't really matter. Well, the thing that the Lombardi story unfortunately did, it's sort of covered up a lot of the history that was going on at that time, and it's much more complicated and it's much more varied. The myth was that he was the trunk of a tree, and all the pizzerias that came from America early on came from that. It wasn't the case. There was a lot of activity that was going on.
That is why the second pizza that I want to reveal is not from a person, but from another ethnic enclave. This is not pizza, it is a Beats, and it comes from Sally's in New Haven. This thing is stiff, it is thin, it smells a little different than the stuff from Lombardi's. And look at this, there's definitely a char on this. New Haven is not far from New York, but its pizza has fierce partisans.
I mean, it's the center. New Haven's the center of the pizza landscape. It's like if every map centers on New Haven and then the rest of the world is around it. That's my globe.
Colin is my third pizzalectual. He gives pizza tours in New Haven, and his book about New Haven pizza came highly recommended to me.
The people who came over to New Haven, who came to Boston, to New York, to Chicago originally, a lot of them came from the same exact region. You know, they came right from Campania. They may have come from the same town. They could even be family relations, and they would have brought over the same exact recipes, obviously with differences that based on the family. New Haven is not a terribly large city, and so you've got like various distinct neighborhoods, and New Haven's located on a harbor. As it goes, the history of New Haven is connected intrinsically to its harbors. It became an industrialized city by the mid-1800s. It was extremely industrialized. The areas that you'd want to pay attention to, of course, are the Little Italies. The remnant part of Worcester Street is our Little Italy today. It's about maybe 4 or 5 blocks long. And that's where you can find two of the most famous and most historic pizzerias, Sally's and Pepe's, still there. And then you get to like another area of New Haven, which is called East Rock neighborhood along State Street. And there's another historic pizzeria. And so Modern Beats is up there. And that's another historic one.
And so New Haven also has a great example in some of the more specialty pies.
Yeah, I mean, the most iconic New Haven pizza is the white clam pie. Come on. And Frank Pepe helped invent that. He really put the clams on the pizza without sauce. And the reason why we have clams is because we're on the shoreline.
This pizza style, in turn, it has spread around the world. This is Colin's map of New Haven-style pizza joints. But there is a problem. As late as the 1950s, people were still asking, what is it? They called it Italy's answer to the US hamburger. It wasn't a default option like today. So what changed?
I think once I turn around, we'll be there.
So I am not a foodie. I lived in small towns and suburbs as a kid. For me, Pizza Hut and this distinctive shaped building defined pizza. And I think you have to have the chains to understand the rise of pizza. Gaze upon the Pizza Hut pattern. This distinctive architecture with the weird ridge in the roof, those fantastic windows, it's recognizable even when the buildings are gone. A site called Used to Be a Pizza Hut chronicles their evolution and mapped them. It is miraculous. I wanted to understand why this was so compelling, so I chatted with Rolando. He runs The Retrologist and may be one of our generation's foremost Hut chroniclers. How did this topic first appeal to you?
Kind of obsessed with finding traces of vintage chains or old fast food places. For example, I used to remember talking to friends with whom I would go on trips, and I had this great desire to find a vintage 70s era KFC bucket. You know, that actually that would still spin and had the whole thing going around. When it came to, you know, fast food / retail architecture, there was a premium placed on distinctiveness.
You walk into a Pizza Hut and it's like this moody, almost Victorian style place in these traditional Pizza Huts. It's not like a hut. I mean, what did they think a hut was? Did they know what a hut was? You know?
Well, you know, the very first Pizza Hut, which is in Kansas, actually is kind of a little hut.
All the big chains were mostly unconnected to Italian culture. Pizza Hut was in Wichita, Little Caesars, and Domino's were founded by non-Italians in Michigan. I read the whole Domino's memoir, Pizza Tiger, And Tom Monaghan seemed nice, but he also thought the center of pizza was in Times Square. This was a business, not really about the food. And the spread of Domino's regional hubs shows how these chains grew out regionally. Pizza democratization started in the 50s as it latched onto bigger trends. Tavern pizza, thin crust, beer-soaking pizza had emerged as a popular snack.
By the mid-30s, the idea was there to make a pizza gas oven, and probably by the late 30s, early 40s, they actually started to commercialize it.
Sometimes you run into this, what I consider apocrypha about World War II soldiers coming back from Italy and kind of being into pizza. That seems a little like a Just So story to me. I mean,
absolutely. Perfect term for it. Perfect term for it. I mean, you can say that probably happened to some degree, but it was not the main driver. And I think probably a more important driver was the mixing that happened during World War II. So I've often thought, I have some stories of people that mixed in from East Coast towns. So you're in the same unit from a guy from Jersey and you're from Kansas City. And this guy from Jersey is talking about pizza pie or something like that he's just yearning for it, right?
Even technically pizzas like Chef Boyardee made pizza non-ethnic and mainstream.
Get Chef Boyardee complete pizza mix. Pizza pie in minutes.
Stuff like delivery is important to spreading pizza around the United States.
I think that the pizza box is simultaneously the best thing to ever happen to pizza and the worst thing to ever happen to pizza. On the culinary side, it has made us complacent with lower quality pizza. Not to say that pizza that's delivered is always bad pizza, but once it goes into the box, it deteriorates. It's worse than it was when it came out of the oven. So that's an issue. But it's also been the best thing because, as you said, the box is what made pizza portable. It's what made pizza a food not just of sit-down restaurant, but of your kid's 7th birthday party, and that you bring to the soccer field to celebrate after a game. It's an icon that when you see somebody carrying this square that's shallow, this horizontal square, that you know that they're going somewhere good.
You knew this was coming. You were probably wondering why it was taking me so long to get to this, but here it is. Chicago deep dish. Very controversial type of pizza. This is Giordano's. People reference Pizzeria Uno, Luminati's, Giordano's. They're all traveling in this deep dish style. As you can see, the crust, it's more like pie dough than like pizza crust. You might wonder why I left out this Chicago style, since it showed up in the 1940s. But Peter told me its identity as a style wasn't solidified until the 1970s, when pizza truly became mainstream. Deep dish started with Pizzeria Uno in Chicago, but it was different than what we have today. On Pizzeria Uno's 23rd anniversary, there was no mention of deep dish as a genre, just a note of the growth of thousands of pizza parlors after it. And this graph of newspaper search results shows that deep dish didn't really take off until the 1970s.
For example, the dough I found from the original one that Ricardo had in 45, his dough, the dough that they were suggesting being used at Pizzeria Uno now was 70% more in weight.
Deep dish became deep dishier and deep dishier until it became a bit of a parody of itself almost.
When you get people copying things, it changes things, and not in a subtle way.
It wasn't until the 1970s that deep dish really took on this role as a cultural marker of Chicago. And that makes sense because everybody in the United States needed to know what pizza was before they could start differentiating it and create the vast number of regional styles that we have today. That's how you get regional styles like Old Forge pizza, a medium crust rectangular cut with processed cheese. St. Louis pizza, utilizing provolone and later the local cheese, Provel. Or American cheese on pizza in Altoona. The less said, the better. There's Quad Cities pizza, with rectangular cuts and lots of sauce and pre-cooked sausage. Detroit pizza has its caramelized cheese edges and steel pan cooking. And later came artisanal pizzas of the West Coast, which began at Chez Panisse. Imagine toppings like caramelized onions, pancetta, or truffles. It traveled south to Spago with signature salmon pizza and grew from there. So without the ethnic enclaves incubating pizza and the chains making it mainstream, you don't get the incredible diversity of pizzas that you have today. But there's one other piece here. I did a pizza party call-in show, and I noticed that most people were as attached to the emotions as they were to the food.
Wisconsin bar pizza.
Can you describe it a bit for me?
Classic, thin crust, crispy bar slice.
It's a Chicago tradition since 1964.
Imperial pizza in Buffalo, New York. Has some sharp cut pepperoni, pork crust, the spicy sauce, and a Bills game in the background. What more can you ask for?
My favorite pizza in Portland is from Scotty's Pizza Parlor, and it's called the
Is this like a fancy thing?
It is a fancy thing.
This is from my favorite in the whole world, Mario and Salvo's.
Phil, we gotta represent our Detroit style pizza, complete with corners.
A place called Angelo's, and it's one of the best pizzas I've ever had in the whole world.
Lisa's Pizza, that cracker crust, real crunchy, real thin.
I will say up front, I think my favorite style of pizza that I grew up with is like New Haven style of pizza.
A place in Carbondale, Illinois, that is called Quattro's, and there is exactly one of these on planet Earth, and it is amazing.
So when I was growing up, there was this little pizza place called Goat Mountain Pizza, and what was really special about their pizza is you would order it by the pound.
I really enjoy the uniqueness of the New Haven pizza. I think Frank Pepe's personally is my favorite.
And I think that is the real reason that so many people requested this video. They care about the geography because it attaches to them. They don't care that much about the toppings or the crust. They care about the memories.
I mean, to me, that's intriguing stuff that goes beyond the world of pizza, and that's how ideas are spread. That's how people decide to make money. That's how people decide to live.
And I guess I'm a little sad that those memories are lost to me. They're all converted to strip clubs. Unless
The list that I put together, it only includes those that have gotten the throwback treatment, that have become Pizza Hut classics.
Daylight's fading.
Hey, that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you again to MyHeritage for supporting this video. Click that link to get your free trial. It's pretty amazing what it does. Like, I did not think I was going to find such a huge family tree, and I did. It was really surprising. So yeah, thank you to them for supporting this video. Thank you to everyone who talked to me for this video. I probably spent 3 or 4 hours at least talking pizza to people. So follow all those people. I've got links to their various projects in the description. All of them worked on a book called Modernist Pizza. It is insanely expensive, but you should check it out or check it out at the library. It was a big resource for me in the research for this video. And then finally, if you don't know, I write a newsletter that comes out with every video. It lets you know a new video is out, and it also includes a little extra article I couldn't fit into the video proper. And this week, well, it is about pizza in Canada and one specific place. I got this as a tip during my pizza party.
They are very, very proud about the fact that they are the mecca for pizza in Canada.
So go ahead, you can subscribe to the newsletter. It's free to subscribe. I host it on Patreon, but it's totally free. Go ahead and check it out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, I want to know your favorite pizzas. What are they? Let me know your pizza stories. What's the best? What's the worst?